Thank you, Allison. Okay. I think I'm going to read, and it's really small on my screen, the Act Together um, personal dimension. We discern our unique call to participate with others in organized actions for the sake of mending the brokenness in our communities and restoring our connection to the places we live. And this story was inspired by Lauren in a lot of ways, and I wish Lauren were here, but that's okay. And it's also inspired by Michael in some ways too. And as I think about this, I'm reflecting back to a novel I read a few years ago and don't remember really well, but many of you may have read it or know about it too. It's called Unsheltered by Barbara Kingsolver. And it tells the story of a middle class family that's kind of spiraling downward in their relation to sort of their economic security. And the metaphor for it is their rickety old house that's kind of falling apart. And it turns out it needs these really expensive repairs that they can't afford. And they're trying to figure out how to remain sheltered in a world that's becoming ever more chaotic and uncertain due to the climate crisis and other forces that we talk about a lot in this space. Um, and so this becomes a story about intersectionality. And it's only tangentially related to climate and environmental justice because it's a story about housing, but also at the root of all our security, the way we've structured our lives in our modern culture, it begins with having solid housing and being able to claim a place of shelter and home. And those of us with privilege, and I include myself in this absolutely, it's very easy to forget how essential that is. And I do get reminded by it because of my neighborhood and because of the number of unhoused people that I encounter on the daily. And yet I still tend to not make these connections and not think about this intersectionally. So onward. Um, the group that I want to talk about, I met through the Reckoning with Racism cohort in the Lutheran Synod's organizing house. And I think, as all of you know, there are several rooms in the organizing house and they're interrelated. But one of them is housing, one of them is racism, reckoning with racism, and the other is climate resilience. And interestingly enough, I'm most active in the Reckoning with Racism room and the climate resilience room, not the housing. um, but as St. Michael's kind of went through one period of our cohort's Reckoning with Racism work, we became more and more curious about the housing crisis in Portland and more curious about um, the issue of affordable housing, the issue about wealth redistribution, the issues about economic justice. And we were introduced to an organization called the PDX Housing Solidarity Project. And this is a very new, very revolutionary group that's kind of just been around for about 4 years. And what they have as their model is claiming the ability to act together at the micro level in ways that change lives. And they do this by wealth redistribution. And in essence, it started much like Lauren's story about her inheritance from her mom and her house in St. Louis, that she discerned that she could redistribute and take the wealth from that inheritance and pass it on to others who had not had the economic advantages that she has had in her life. And in a very similar way, this is what the PDX Housing Solidarity Project is about. They are a small group, but their basic model is to work with, identify, and support Black and Indigenous people who are becoming first-time homeowners, and in some way facilitating their ability to do that, either by down payment assistance or gift or low-interest loans. But all those things are done under the rubrics of justice and repair and not charity. And so the framework, and it's one that's important for our work, I think, too, is just to remember and recall, if we have them, our own privileges and how privileges accrue to us depending on our background, our race, our gender identity, our expression, and so on. And at the end of the day, what's interesting to me about this group and what's empowering about this group is it's not relying on policy, it's not relying on big change, it's not relying on a huge movement. It's just relying on, you know, a few people of goodwill who are willing to engage in this work and to do repair at a personal level. And the group acts as a facilitator, and it finds and matches folks who want to do repair with folks who are looking to become first-time homeowners from the Black and Indigenous communities in Portland. So I will drop into the chat when I get a chance to put it, a link to their work. And I can also answer questions about their work and connect you to people that are doing it. But I just thought about in this space, climate resilience kind of begins with personal resilience, and personal resilience kind of begins with having shelter and having some stability in your home life, whatever that looks like. And again, it's not something that I think about enough, but there are so many people who are fragile in that space. And this is one small way to help shore that up and to provide resilience, justice, and repair all in the same space. Thanks for listening to my story.